Good afternoon. My name is Roman Papaduk. I'm the Executive Director of the George Bush Presidential Library Foundation. On behalf of the President and Mrs. Bush, welcome to today's Kay and Britt Rice Lecture Series featuring Ambassador Zhang Yesui of the People's Republic of China. This lecture is the opening keynote address of the 5th Biennial U.S.-China Relations Conference sponsored by Texas A&M University, the George Bush School of Government and Public Service here at the university, the George Bush Presidential Library Foundation, and the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries. This conference series has played an important role in enhancing academic research and people-to-people exchanges between Texas A&M and various academic and research institutions in China. In a special way, it has also helped strengthen the growing relationship between the United States and China. The continued participation of President Bush and the highest level attention of Chinese officials attests to the importance and usefulness of this conference. I would like to thank Madam Li Xiaolin, President of the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries, for her continued support of the conference. She has always been a pleasure to work with. Thank you, Madam Li. I wish to acknowledge our conference sponsors. These include the China National Offshore Oil Corporation, represented by its Executive Vice President, Mr. Zhu Weilin. Mary Kay Cosmetics, represented by Chief Counsel Nathan Moore. Bingham McCutcheon, represented by CEO Jay Zimmerman. The Halter Financial Group, represented by CEO Timothy Halter. And Dow Chemical. A special thank you to Kay and Britt Rice, who are sponsoring this afternoon's presentation. Kay and Britt are longtime supporters of the Bush Library Center, and I am delighted that they were able to join us. Kay and Britt, thank you very much. We also have a number of special guests with us this afternoon. Congressman Bill Flores, our very own representative. Bill. Former California Governor Pete Wilson. Where's Pete? Former Chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission and former Congressman Chris Cox. And former White House Chief of Staff of President George W. Bush and current Dean of the Bush School, Andrew Card. Also joining us are Mrs. Lu Aimei, wife of China's Foreign Minister Yang Jiechi, and China's Consul General in Houston, Madam Zhu Irwin. Following the ambassador's presentation, you are invited to the library rotunda for a reception and viewing of a special exhibit on China and Texas A&M and the Texas A&M connection. Our program is being live streamed, so I extend a special welcome to our viewing audience. Following his presentation, Ambassador Zhang will respond to a number of written questions that have been submitted in advance by members of the audience. I'd also like to state that we have an overflow crowd today. We have a number of our guests sitting in the adjoining auditorium. I would ask that those guests remain seated because the ambassador has agreed to stop by and add a personal touch by visiting with you for a few moments after this session here. Once again, welcome, and now it is my special pleasure to introduce the A&M Singing Cadets who will perform the national anthems of China and the United States. The Singing Cadets, founded in 1893, are Texas A&M's internationally known male chorus. Under the direction of Mr. David Kipp, the choir performs more than any other collegiate group in the United States, performing for over 100,000 people each year. A special note is that a special honorary member of the Singing Cadets is President Bush himself. Ladies and gentlemen, the Singing Cadets.
Bye, good one.
David, thank you very much, and thank you to the singing cadets. Ladies and gentlemen, wasn't that a wonderful performance? Thank you once again. I would like to now turn the mic over to President Bowen Loftin, President of Texas A&M University. Bowen.
Howdy. Howdy. For those of you from our sister nation, China, that is our common greeting here at Texas A&M. It's my pleasure to welcome Ambassador Zhang Yesui, Ambassador Chen Naiying, Chao Jielian, Madam Li Shaolin, and Mrs. Le Aimee. Ambassador Papaduk, thank you for the introduction. I also want to acknowledge again, Congressman Flores for being here today. Thank you, sir, for being here. Dean Card, and especially welcome to the future of our world, our nations. Our students here, our future of our nation, our world is our students here at Texas A&M. We welcome all of you here, singing cadets and others who may have joined us today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of this great university, I'm honored to welcome all of you to 2011 China-U.S. Relations Conference. This is the 5th of a series of China-U.S. Relations Conferences co-hosted by the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries, Texas A&M University, and our Bush School of Government and Public Service, as well as the George Bush Presidential Library Foundation. The first conference was held here at Texas A&M University in November 2003. The second was held in Beijing in November 2005. The third was held in Washington, D.C. in October 2007. The fourth was held in Beijing again in October 2009, and I had the pleasure of attending that particular conference. And we're pleased to welcome you here to the 5th, back again where we began at Texas A&M. The theme for this year's conference is institutionalizing collaborative research and partnerships. Let me repeat that again, institutionalizing, making part of our fabric, collaborative research and partnerships. This is a most appropriate focus as we build on the foundation provided during the 4 previous conferences and seek to identify additional ways to strengthen our mutually beneficial collaborative research and partnerships. Thank you to Madam Li. I would like to thank you personally for being here today and for your hard work for this conference. Your presence means a great deal to all of us. This conference is made possible largely through your hard work and support. We thank you for that. Ambassador Zhang Yesui, thank you for being with us. Your presence here underscores the importance of this major conference here at Texas A&M on behalf of your great nation. Madam Xu Erwin, you have been Consul General in Houston only for a short time, but you and I have become acquainted through your visits here to our campus, and we appreciate your support for the collaborations already in place between us and China and those which will come in the future. This conference has been an important platform as we seek to broaden understanding between China and the United States and strengthen our mutual cooperation. President Bush, you are the reason we're here. It was your initial idea, your support, and your persuasion that led this great conference to begin. And we thank you so much for not only that, but being here today with us. Thank you, sir. This is an important conference for many reasons, but we now fully understand how complex the world has become, how interrelated our societies have become. There is no way for us to continue as a nation without strong collaboration with our partners, especially between ourselves and China. The critical issues we want to focus on include securing energy resources, finding models for continued and sustainable economic development, and encouraging a global economic and political order that guarantees the security of our nations and of our peoples. Maintaining this relationship between nations is not an easy task, however. We are very fortunate that many early leaders, especially President Bush, really helped formulate the relationship we have today between China and the United States on exactly the right platforms. And we are so appreciative of many people who've been coming to all these conferences over the last many years and are here again today. The leaders who have been part of this conference in the past and those here today have set very high standards and reinforce the necessity of strengthening our relationships while also demonstrating how the diplomatic ties that bind nations must address critical infrastructure needs such as commerce, energy, education, science, and cultural relationships. Now, we are here today and tomorrow in this conference to do several things. First, explore issues of common interest to find areas of agreement. That is a continuation of a theme we began long ago. Identify shared values and commitments. More deeply explore the areas in which our societies are already interdependent upon one another, and continue the rewarding work of building relationships based on mutual trust, commitment, and collaboration. Texas A&M University is honored to be a co-host of this important bilateral conference, and we're proud to have you today at our campus here in College Station, Texas. We are a university with a truly global scope and breadth. We seek to fulfill our educational and research missions to bring about a brighter future when working with an organization such as the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries. And I might add that my own private goal here at Texas A&M is to ensure that every one of our students ultimately has time to spend outside the country while they're here at Texas A&M, truly learning the culture, history, and language of another country. Through that mechanism, they will become global citizens. Our mission here at Texas A&M, we state very simply, is to produce leaders of character dedicated to serving the greater good. This great mission includes having an outreach mission to improve the lives of people across Texas, across our country, and across the entire globe. Addressing the critical issues that define our shared future and creating a marketplace of ideas where people with different perspectives and backgrounds can interact based on mutual respect and mutual understanding. During this conference, we will benefit from the expertise of top scholars and senior officials from both our countries regarding the important issues of international relations, international commerce, and energy research and policy. I want to thank the scholars and researchers from both China and the United States who have attended this conference. I know many of you have been working together in the past, perhaps for many years now, going back to the very first of these conferences, to not only start but continue and grow deep collaborations and make particular preparations for this conference and the research roundtable sessions it will contain. I hope that you will again have a very productive set of discussions at this conference, and the outcome will be to continue, strengthen, and develop joint research projects and policy papers, and continue further collaborations to address issues of mutual interest. I also want to thank you, the sponsors here today. You've truly made this conference possible through your generosity to us, and we thank you for being here not only today, but those of you who've been here in the past supporting this great conference. Again, I'm honored to welcome all of you here to Texas A&M University as we continue to work together to institutionalize our collaborative research and partnerships. Thank you.
Dr. Loftin, thank you very much. It is now my distinct honor to introduce the ambassador. Ambassador Zhang Yesui has been ambassador of China to the United States since March 2010. Before coming to Washington, he was ambassador and permanent representative of China to the United Nations from 2008 to 2010. He served as Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs from 2003 to 2008, with a portfolio covering policy planning, African, European, North American, Ocean affairs, arms control and disarmament, and international treaty and law. It sounds like you were the only one that was working. Before that, he was Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs from 2000 to 2003, responsible for administration, protocol, and personnel. From 1996 to 2000, he was Director General of the Protocol Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Before that, he assumed various posts in the Department of International Organizations and Conferences of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including Deputy Director General from 1992 to 1996, and Third Secretary, Deputy Division Director, First Secretary, and then Counselor from 1982 to 1988. Between 1988 and 1992, he was First Secretary and then Counselor in the Permanent Mission of China to the United Nations. His first posting was in the Embassy of China in the United Kingdom from 1976 to 1982. He graduated from Beijing Foreign Studies University and studied at the London School of Economics from 1975 to 1976. He is accompanied today by his lovely wife, Ambassador Chen Naiqing. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm Aggie welcome for Ambassador Zhang Yesui.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Papaduke, for the warm introduction and for the kind invitation. In fact, your invitation actually has enabled me to visit the George Bush Presidential Library for the first time, the Texas A&M the first time, and also Houston for the first time. So thank you very, very much. In fact, I have been a great fan of the Houston Rockets since, since Yao Ming joined the team in 2002. Actually, I had wished that the team could have traveled a bit further. And also, I would like to say that originally, Foreign Minister Yang of China was to address this very important meeting, but he has to leave yesterday, so I send his apologies. So thank you very much for your understanding. Honorable President Bush and Mrs. Bush, President Loftin, Ambassador Papaduke, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and privilege to speak at the George Bush Presidential Library. I want to express our sincere gratitude to the George Bush Presidential Library Foundation and Texas A&M for organizing this event and for their valuable contributions to China-US relations over the course of many years. I wish to pay special tribute to President George H.W. Bush for his sustained and tireless effort to promote friendship and cooperation between our two peoples and our two countries. Thank you very, very much. I want to thank the Texas A&M University, the George Bush Presidential Library Foundation, the George Bush School of Government and Public Services, and the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries for co-hosting the 5th China-US Relations Conference, which will be held here tomorrow. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the reopening of relations between China and the United States. 40 years ago, the Chinese and American leaders, with great vision and political wisdom, made the decision to reach out to each other after 22 years of estrangement and hostility. It was a decision that opened a new page in China-US relations and brought about profound changes in international relations. 40 years later, despite ups and downs, with the shared commitment and joint efforts from the leaders of both countries, governments, and the people of all walks of life, China-US relationship has surged ahead and has come a long, long way. Today, China-US relationship has become one of the most important and dynamic relationships in the world. As I see it, this relationship has the following 4 distinctive features. First, the economic interests of China and the United States have been closely interconnected. 40 years ago, our trade and economic activities were almost non-existent. Today, we're each other's second largest trading partner. Last year, bilateral trade reached $385 billion US. China has been the US fastest growing export market for the last 10 years, and US export to China increased by 468% from 2000 to 2010, while US exports to other countries increased only by 55%. The United States continues to be the #1 source of foreign direct investment for China, and China has become the biggest foreign creditor for the United States. Secondly, dialogue and consultation at various levels have increased and improved. There have been frequent high-level visits and exchanges. Over 60 dialogue and consultation mechanisms have been established, covering a wide range of areas, including the Strategic and Economic Dialogue, the Joint Commission on Commerce and Trade, the high-level consultation on people-to-people exchange, and the recently established Strategic Security Dialogue and the Asia-Pacific Affairs Consultation. These mechanisms have provided unique and effective platforms for China and the United States to build trust and expand cooperation. Thirdly, there have been extensive and growing social interactions between our two countries. Every year, more than 3 million visits are made between China and the United States. About 9,000 people are traveling across the Pacific each and every single day. We have 38 pairs of sister province-state relationships and 169 sister-city relationships. As we speak, about 130,000 Chinese are studying in the United States, and about 20,000 Americans are studying in China. Currently, about 300 million people in China are learning English, and more than 200,000 people in the United States are learning Chinese. Finally, the two countries have kept effective communication and cooperation on many important regional and global issues. China and the United States are working closely in almost every field, from traditional security and development areas to newly emerged issues such as anti-terrorism, non-proliferation, climate change, energy, and environmental protection, from addressing the global financial crisis and facilitating world economic recovery to the realization of the United Nations Millennium Development Goals. China-US relationship is assuming an increasing global implication. It is fair to say that China-US relationship has evolved to such a point that would surprise even the most imaginative person 40 years ago. The fundamental reason and driving force lie in the expanding common interests between the two countries and shared responsibilities in ensuring sustainable development and dealing with emerging global challenges. At the same time, I must say, China-US relationship is probably one of the most complex bilateral relationships in the world. China and the United States are different in political system, social value, historic and cultural traditions. There is a huge gap in the level of economic and social development, with China being the largest developing country and the United States being the largest developed country. China is an emerging economy, while the United States is a strong, established power. These differences have decided that we do not see eye to eye with each other on many issues. These differences can also lead to misunderstanding and mistrust in each other's strategic intentions. In the history of human civilization, there perhaps has never existed such a bilateral relationship as the China-US relationship before. Therefore, there's no ready path to follow and no historical experience or model to copy. How we finally choose to manage, shape, and grow this relationship will determine its course in the next 40 years. In January this year, President Hu Jintao visited the United States. Among the many results that came out of the visit, the most meaningful was the shared commitment that President Hu Jintao and President Obama have made in the joint statement, that the two sides will work together to build a cooperative partnership based on mutual respect and mutual benefit. This had laid the groundwork, and it depends on how we work together to make it happen. In my view, as we build this cooperative relationship, we should concentrate on the following 4 priorities. Number 1, we must view China-US relationship from a new perspective. In the era of globalization, and given the size and the degree of interconnectedness of the two countries, China and the United States can be regarded as a community of interests. This is not and should not be a zero-sum game relationship. If people continue to look at each other with the Cold War mindset, China and the United States will be drawn into confrontation and conflict. It is imperative to shift from the old habitual way of thinking and begin to frame China-US relations with a global view and from a strategic and long-term perspective. If we work together as partners, we will both emerge as winners. Number 2, we must work together to advance our mutual economic interests. Economic and trade ties have always been the cornerstone and engine for our overall relations. Currently, China and the United States are undertaking massive efforts to restructure our economies. The core of China's 12th five-year plan is to transform the mode of economic development and expand domestic consumption. The United States is also striving to jumpstart the economy through revitalizing American manufacturing, strengthening infrastructure, and expanding export. This offers real opportunities, not only for increased trade and investment activities, but also for expanding cooperation in such areas as clean energy, energy conservation, environment protection, as well as infrastructure. There's also great potential for collaboration at the sub-national level. In the past decade, 47 out of 50 states in America have seen a 3-digit, in some cases, a 4-digit growth in their export to China. The China-US Governors Forum, which was launched this summer, have been well received from both sides and will provide a new and effective platform to promote economic and trade ties at the sub-national level. Number 3, we must continue to improve strategic mutual trust. Trust is the basis for any partnership. To a large extent, how deeply we trust each other determines whether we can cooperate and how well we cooperate. It is imperative to have a correct judgment and understanding of each other's strategic intentions and policy objectives. Following his successful visit to China in August this year, Vice President Biden wrote in the New York Times that, quote, "A successful China can make our country more prosperous, not less," end of quote. Equally, a successful and growing America is also in China's interests. We need close dialogue and communications in order to build strategic trust and avoid miscalculations and misconceptions. We should take advantage of the dialogue mechanisms we have put in place, in particular the strategic and economic dialogue, strategic security dialogue, and Asia-Pacific Affairs consultation, and use them fully and wisely in order to communicate in a prompt way and minimize the chances of conflicts and strategic surprises. Number 4, we must properly handle differences and disagreements. In the history of China-US relations, the relationship will be smooth and stable when the core interests of both sides are taken seriously and taken care of, and will be less so and even strained where they are not. The question of Taiwan is critically related to China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. It is an issue that the Chinese people feel strongly about. Last month, the United States announced another large-scale arms sale to Taiwan. This has seriously interfered in China's internal affairs, undermined China's security, and damaged the US-China relations. We urge the US side to fully implement its commitment made in the 3 joint communiques, especially the August 17 communique, and take real actions to uphold the larger interest of China-US relations and peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Our economic and trade relationship is so big and expanding so fast that it is only normal to have problems. But to politicize economic problems will not work. To blame the RMB exchange rate for the trade imbalance and to subsequently invoke protectionist measures will only push China and the United States towards the brink of a trade war, which is exactly what we should avoid when confronted with a sluggish world economy and international financial instability. We do not seek large trade surplus with the United States. We have taken steps to import more from the United States in an effort to address this imbalance. Domestically, we are working to improve our legal framework, strengthen IPR protection, and provide a favorable and level playing field for foreign businesses in terms of indigenous innovation and government procurement. It is important that the US side takes similar steps to ease the restrictions on high-tech exports to China and provide an open and friendly environment for Chinese investment, which can contribute to the US economy and employment. Recently, in the United States, there has been a lot of interest in China's rise. Some people see the rise more as an opportunity, while others regard it more as a threat. Some even suggested to contain China. Many people have debated the pros and cons of the China phenomenon. The People's Republic of China has gone through an extraordinary journey in the 62 years since it was founded, particularly over the past 32 years of reform and opening up. China is now the second largest economy, the largest exporter, and the biggest emerging market in the world. More than 300 million people in the rural areas have been lifted out of poverty. The average life expectancy has increased from 35 in 1949 to 73.5 in 2010. The living standards, educational and cultural levels of the Chinese people have greatly improved. However, despite China's impressive achievements, it is still a developing country in the true sense of the word. Our per capita GDP is only $4,400 US, 1/10 of that of the United States, and ranks behind 100th in the world. Based on the United Nations standard of $1 a day, 150 million Chinese are still living under the poverty line. Unbalanced development exists between the urban and rural areas and among different regions. The structural problems in economic and social development remain acute, and economic growth, which excessively depends on resource input, is increasingly constrained by resource shortages and environmental problems. China's social security system is inadequate, lagging far behind those of the developed countries, so there's a long way to go. China has chosen and will remain firmly committed to the path of peaceful development, which is defined as follows. China should develop itself through upholding world peace and contribute to world peace through its own development. It should achieve development with its own efforts and by carrying out reform and innovation. At the same time, it should open itself to the outside world and learn from other countries. It should seek mutual benefit and common development with other countries in keeping with the trend of economic globalization, and it should work together with other countries to build a harmonious world of durable peace and common prosperity. What has happened has already proved and will prove that China's peaceful development not only brings tangible benefits to the people of China, but also can positively contribute to the well-being of the rest of the world. China cannot develop itself in isolation from the world. We have worked closely with the international community and played an important role in promoting world economic recovery and global financial stability. Steady and relatively fast growth of China's economy is in itself an important contribution to the world economy. In recent years, China has contributed to over 10% of the world economic growth, over 12% to international trade. In the next 5 years, China's import will reach $10 trillion US, providing further opportunities to farmers, manufacturers, and workers in other parts of the world. China is the only nuclear weapon country that has publicly stated that it will not be the first to use nuclear weapons or use or threaten to use nuclear weapons against non-nuclear weapon states or nuclear weapon-free zones. China has taken an active part in international cooperation in anti-terrorism and non-proliferation. China has played a constructive role in addressing such international and regional issues as the Korean nuclear issue and the Iranian nuclear issue. China has sent 210,000 peacekeeping personnel to 30 UN operations, more than any other permanent members of the UN Security Council. We have actively participated in the G20 process and will continue to encourage it to move from a crisis responding mechanism to a platform for international economic governance. China's increase in the quota and voting power in the World Bank and the IMF will enable us to play a more constructive role in improving world economic governance and economic rebalancing. We will continue to support the Doha round of talks for a balanced and win-win multilateral trading system with universal benefits. China is the first developing country to formulate and implement the National Climate Change Program. We will stick to international climate change negotiations and work with others to protect our globe based on the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. We have reached out to our neighbors to build political trust through security dialogue and military exchanges. We have resolved border issues with 12 neighboring countries, sharing land borders with us. We support the freedom and security of navigation in the South China Sea and have worked with the relevant parties to promote maritime security cooperation. China is committed to peacefully resolving the maritime disputes with relevant countries through bilateral negotiations and friendly consultations. China and the United States share broad common interests in the Asia-Pacific. We respect the legitimate interest and presence of the United States in the Asia-Pacific and welcome a positive and constructive role played by the United States in this region. We support and welcome the United States' participation in the East Asia Summit. We attach great importance to the China-US Asia-Pacific Affairs consultation and see it as an effective cooperation mechanism to advance bilateral interests as well as the common good for the entire region. Peace, development, and cooperation are the common aspirations of mankind. In a world of growing multipolarity, greater economic globalization, and increasing global challenges, countries are brought together more closely than ever before. No country can stand alone. Together, China and the United States account for about 1/3 of the world economy, 1/4 of the world's population, and 1/5 of the international trade. A stable and growing China-US relationship not only serves the fundamental interests of our two countries and two peoples, but also contributes to peace and development of the Asia-Pacific region and the world at large. We have to blaze a trail and create a new model of relationship for the 21st century. I strongly believe that by working together, China and the United States can achieve a lot, not only for our two countries, but for the rest of the world as well. I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please, thank you. 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 Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for those very broad-ranging and informative remarks. I believe you rightly point out the strength and importance of the U.S.-China bilateral relationship, and we all appreciate those words. The Ambassador has agreed to take a number of questions from the audience. Mr. Ambassador, we had the audience members submit written questions as they were coming in. What I've done is selected 4 questions that kind of represent the themes of all the questions that they had in mind. So what I'd like to do, without further ado, is present those questions to you. First, what are your responses to critics of the U.S. trade deficit with China?
A very big question. Thank you. Well, I spoke briefly in my opening remarks on the trade imbalance and currency issue. We recognize that there is a trade imbalance between China and the United States. We also recognize that this trade imbalance is a combination of complicated factors, including structural trade and investment differences in our countries, divergent patterns of saving and investment in our two countries, and also differences in terms of international division of labor in the area of economic structure. We do not believe that legislation is the appropriate mechanism by which to address the currency issue. On the issue of trade imbalance, let me just say a few more. First, I think that the trade deficit of the United States with China is kind of overestimated. Because according to a joint study by a group of Chinese and American trade experts that started in 2006, they actually picked up trade statistics for the year 2000, 2004, and 2006. They found out that, for example, because of various reasons, that the US deficit with China in 2006 was overestimated by about 26% for the year 2006 alone. Number two, as you know very well, that the United States is enjoying a surplus in trade in services, but this surplus is not accounted for in the trade statistics between China and the United States. Number three, I know you know very well that many of the manufactured products that the United States actually imports from China are no longer produced here inside the United States. So if the United States decides to stop importing them from China, it has to import from somewhere else. But perhaps for ordinary consumers, they would have to pay more money for the same quality of products. Finally, I think that the exchange rate of the Chinese currency, the yuan, should not be blamed for the loss of jobs in this country. The exchange rate may be a factor, but not a very important factor. For example, the Chinese currency actually appreciated for about 30% since July 2005, but the unemployment rate in this country, instead of being reduced, actually increased from 5.1 to 9.1 currently. So I think that the appreciation of the RMB would not significantly help to lower the unemployment rate in the United States. So I hope that what I'm saying was that this is a very complex issue, and we should deal with them and discuss with them through proper channels so that we understand each other much better and find the ways and means to address them instead of making legislations that can be very, very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. The second question is, what sectors do you think are the most promising for Chinese investment in the United States?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think as China develops, there will be more business people from China that can actually go outside China to invest. And I think that I have met many Chinese business people that are really very much interested in investing in the United States. But to my surprise, I recently read some figures that I think does not actually respond to the interest from the Chinese investors. Up to now, Chinese foreign direct investment outbound reached more than $300 billion US. But only a small portion of it actually came to the United States. It's about 1.5%. I mean, from the total outbound foreign direct investment coming from China to the United States. So I don't think this is compatible with the current state of United States and China being the two largest economies, and not compatible with the potential of our economic trade potentials. So I really hope that there will be more Chinese investment to the United States. And I think I have mentioned some areas in my opening remarks that I believe that energy, environment protection, infrastructure, and many other areas that can serve as some of the priority areas that we can work together. And I'm happy to report to you that both governments now have realized the potential benefits for encouraging Chinese investment to the United States. And the issue of investment has been on the agenda of many important dialogue mechanisms, like the Strategic and Security Dialogue and the Joint Commission on Commerce and Trade. So I hope that as we proceed, the investment environment in this country will be better for Chinese investors. And I am confident that there will be more and more Chinese investment to come in the United States, because this is not good for the investors themselves. It actually helps the US economy and help create jobs in this country. This is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Third question is, what are your concerns with respect to North Korea's nuclear program?
Oh, another one. Good. Well, our overall objective, I think, together with the United States and other partners, is that we all want to see peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. We would like to see a denuclearized Korean Peninsula, and we firmly oppose proliferation of nuclear weapons in the region. At the same time, we also believe that this issue should be resolved through peaceful means, through dialogue and consultations. China, as the sponsor of the six-party talks, we believe that the six-party talks can be a very effective platform to address the nuclearization issues, and also a good platform to discuss improving relations between the relevant parties. And we are very glad at some recent positive developments, not only between the North and South, because they just concluded the second round of dialogue on denuclearization, which was held in Beijing. And I also read that the United States is going to start an engagement dialogue with North Korea in 2 days' time in Geneva. So we hope that all those are positive developments, and we hope that if we work together continuously, hardly enough, we will be able to resume the six-party talks soon, because this is really the only way out and the most effective platform. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Ambassador. You've addressed some very difficult issues here, and we have one last remaining question. And you know what to say, it's the last question that can get you into trouble. And this is the question. How do you like Texas?
Well, I like Texas a lot.
Right.
You know, before I left Washington, D.C., a friend of mine actually reminded me of the bigness of Texas. Big state, a big steak, and big sky. But what I felt the most, and what has impressed me the most, I think, is big love and big friendship. I am so impressed by President Bush and Mrs. Bush and so many friends and colleagues that actually came out on a Sunday afternoon to listen to my address. So this shows the big friendship that you have for China. And with this, I'm confident about the relationship between the people of Texas with China and between the people of the United States with China. So I really can't wait to come back again. Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very, very much once again. I have a few announcements to make. I remind those guests that are in the adjacent auditorium viewing proceedings on closed-circuit TV to please remain seated because the ambassadors agreed to stop by and personally greet you. I would ask that the President's guests remain seated at the conclusion of the program, and other guests are welcome to go over across the plaza to the library. There is a reception there, as well as you can view the exhibit on China-Texas A&M relations. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our program for this afternoon. Once again, thank you for coming and enjoy the afternoon.